Hey campers, Gibbles and Bits here, and welcome back to another Camp Legend YouTube Lorcana video. Into the Inklands, Lorcana's third set is vastly approaching. It should be here next weekend and big box stores shortly after. As we say goodbye to the Rise of the Floodborn season, I do want to go over one of my favorite competitive decks from this second season that I do think will make an impact in a kind of a sort of a way into the third season. Some cards will change, but overall, I think the shell of this deck is very fun, very competitive. So let's go ahead and take a look, and then we're going to jump into some gameplay. So here we have what I call my Heliotrope Smoke deck. I asked my wife to go ahead and name it. So she picked a Purple Flower, which is a Heliotrope, and then Smoke, obviously, for the gray. But this is a mid-range to control deck is what I would consider it. It's slightly different than the typical Ruby Amethyst deck that is kind of running amok in the second season. But it does kind of compete as well as any deck can against that without it being like an evasive hyper aggro deck. So let's take a look at some of the key cards here. You've got a lot of the bounce package in here, the Merlin Rabbit, Merlin Goat, great things to be able to have on board to either draw you cards when they leave play or get you lore when they leave play. If your opponent does play a Be Prepared. Beast Tragic Hero for card draw, as well as the Merlin Rabbit for card draw. Now, this deck typically would run Blue Fairy. That's kind of what made this shell popular, but I cut Blue Fairy in favor of just a bigger statted and more sticky and more kind of a more dangerous early game package. So Prince Eric being able to challenge for 2 and Olaf having that 3 defense felt a little bit better to me than and kind of beefing those up to 4 than having the Blue Fairy for some of the tricky card draw pieces. You've already got plenty of card draw in here with Ursula as well. So, and Let the Storm Rage On being able to be sung and draw you a card as well. So this deck does curve pretty well into the mid-late game. And then you can close games out with Elsa, Spirit of Winter to keep their opponent's cards exerted, and so well as the lore questing from Ursula and Elsa both at 3 to help you kind of close out games when you're in that 10 to 15 range and your opponent necessarily can't respond. So this is the deck in a nutshell. There are definitely cards you can trade in and out of here and make it a little bit more budget. If you don't have some of the high cost cards in here like Beast Tragic Hero or the Elsas or the Ursulas. So deck functions very well, and let's go ahead and jump into a couple games. All right, let's cue it up. I had this deck in Pixelborn labeled as my Meta Breaker deck just because it was a deck that I took to a competitive tournament and ran into a lot of exactly this, Ruby Amethyst. So you guys will get, win or loss, a good idea about how this deck functions against some of the top stuff. So we see Elsa in our opening hand. We don't necessarily want that. Merlin Goat, we don't necessarily need, seeing that we have a pretty decent curve as well. I'll keep Beast for the mid-game card draw here. All right, we drew basically a full hand of Inkables, which isn't always the case with this deck. So anytime you can get your 1-drops out, because we are only running 4 1-drops, it's great to be able to kind of curve into that Madam Mim, similar as a Ruby Amethyst deck would want to do. So we see a second Olaf, which is great. We're going to go ahead and ink that first Olaf and play our second one out and pass it back. They've got an Olaf as well, so they drew several 1-drops. Maleficent is going to quest. Very interesting. Oh, they're going to ready it. So this is going to be maybe more of that aggressive bounce package deck with Arthur. So I think Strength of a Raging Fire is going to be a great card for us here in the mid to late game. So, or in the mid game to kind of eliminate some of those options. We do have another 2-drop. I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to ink the snake here and play out Prince Eric because I want to build some density in our board state early on. I don't want to necessarily play the bounce package and have less units on board because then we're not necessarily threatening as much as Strength of a Raging Fire. So Maleficent, he's digging for some options here. Let's see if he quests with LeFou as well. He does not. Okay. So they would be able to trade into a LeFou and trade into an Eric. But we don't want him bouncing Maleficent. So we are going to... We'll trade. Let's go ahead and ink our 3-drop Maleficent. And we're going to drop our Fox here. Because what that does is on the next turn, that does give us the ability, in case he plays something with 3 defense that we want to kill, it does give us the ability to, he's digging for something, to draw into Merlin, to play Merlin and immediately cast as a song Strength of a Raging Fire with the Madam Mim Fox. Okay, so we can take out Maleficent here if we want to with the Madam Mim and force that trade of LeFou. He does have the ability coming in to maybe play a Maui, but we need to be able to clear some stuff and stop some of the lore count. He's got a spell book out. Maybe we'll draw into one of our 2 copies of Benja here. All right, I still think the plan is going to be play out the Merlin rabbit here. Let's draw a card, another Merlin rabbit. Okay. We've got a pretty decent hand here. We're going to keep this Prince Eric. Actually, we'll go ahead and quest with Prince Eric. He doesn't have anything on board that he can kill it with. He'd have to rush in with something, which if he does, we can respond. So let's go ahead and get a lore on the board. It's just a LeFou and a Sorcerer Spellbook. I'm not too concerned. Great. So that Minnie Mouse Evasive is going to be hard for our deck to handle if we can't get a hold of it. But we do have that Strength of a Raging Fire. Let's see if he trades with the Madam Mim on the LeFou. He does not. Grab Your Swords is also fantastic. So let's go ahead. Prince Eric, we're going to ink. He's at 5. He still could be running Be Prepared. We're going to go ahead and drop the Beast for the extra card draw. We would still at least get a turn or 2 out of the Beast card draw. And let's go ahead and get that Strength of a Raging Fire singing going. So, because we don't want that mini to take off. We'll keep our Merlin healthy. If he trades into the Merlin for it somehow, we don't necessarily care about that. He didn't have anything to trade into it last time with Madam Mim and Prince Eric. We're pretty isolated or insulated from a Lady Tremaine. So we're feeling good at this point. We've got a wide board. We've got 2 things of card draw here that are going to kind of replenish our hand and more card draw in hand. Second spellbook. So he's about to try to go just all in on Rampant. We do have the Grab Your Swords, which is going to help. See if you quest with LeFou. Okay. Now, that's awesome. I'm not necessarily... He did not ink last turn, which is important too. So we're going to absolutely prioritize dropping this Benja to get rid of a spellbook. We have some targets that we can sing here with. Let's go ahead and sing with the Madam Mim Fox. Draw 2 cards, because maybe we can find a bounce target like a snake to get this Benja back, and then do the same thing with the LeFou. Let's go ahead and trade our rabbit into here. We'll quest. I don't want to go too heavy in... Actually, we're still a turn or 2 away. I'm okay with that. Let's see if we can find some more cards. We're going to replenish that. That's great. So we can sing that again with another one of our 3 drops. Probably going to be the Maleficent next turn, just saying that with. He's at 6. 3 cards in hand. We've got more cards and a bigger board, and we're only down by 3 lures. With this kind of an aggressive deck, we're feeling pretty good. Yep. So these are great cards to have in hand, and I don't necessarily want to drop them right now. Okay, so our opponent just scoops. And they've declined playing another match against us. I guess they didn't like the matchup here. So we'll go back to home. So that was a good game 1. I think our opponent looked at our board state, looked at their hand, and said they didn't necessarily have what they needed to be able to compete with this deck. So let's go ahead and jump in another game. That's a good example right there of a mid-range style of play where we saw what was good against us. We took care of that mini with the Strength of a Raging Fire on the evasive piece of it, because this deck doesn't have any ways to deal with the evasive. So we took care of the evasive with some of our spells. If he decided to go all in and go for broken, go wide, we had that Grab Our Sword in hand. So decent spells here. I wonder if this is going to be the same guy. Admittedly, I didn't look at the name of my opponent last time, so I don't know if this is the same deck. All right, here's a good example of how we're going to mulligan, in case it's just the same guy. We don't need Yzma. We don't want any high cost uninkables in our hand. We'll keep the Storm Rage. I'm actually going to ink those right there. We've got Prince Eric in hand, which is great. Maybe we see a 1-drop. Okay, we got a snake back. Okay, at least our hand. We do have an uninkable here, which not that bad though. We don't have a 1-drop to play, but I'll go ahead and get rid of one of my Strength of Raging Fire. It's because we have 2 in hand. We didn't have a 1-drop to play. See what we draw into. A Maui. Okay, so we see a Maui and an Olaf. This is probably more of the traditional package, the traditional control package here. So we want to be able to hold on to our card draw if we can. So I'm actually going to get rid of Snake early since we have another competing 2-drop. Let's go ahead and draw Prince Eric. Threaten if the Olaf quests that we can take it out. Best part about Prince Eric too is if he decides to quest with Olaf and then bring in his own snake on 2, which I think is what we're about to see. Very common opener for that Ruby Amethyst control deck. Yep. So now if he decides to quest with Madam Mim, we also still threaten that as well. So we get a good trade-off. We'll go ahead and get rid of this Olaf. A couple turns too late to see Olaf, but we've got better targets that we can play. We'll go ahead and play that Maleficent, draw a card, keep our Prince Eric healthy. He would get a very nice trade if we did quest. So we'll keep both standing. All right, so he's going to draw some cards too. You can see the similarities in a way with the way that both of our deck and the traditional deck kind of run. So I'm going to utilize our Maleficent here to draw cards. All right, great. So Benja's there. We can keep Benja in our back pocket if we want to. And we have a rush with Madam Mim, which I think I'm actually going to right play or not. We're going to do that to protect an easy trade. And then let's go ahead and ink the Maleficent. We've got more card draw that we can sing. I'm not necessarily worried about our card draw at this moment. We've got 2 beasts. Almost every single card in our hand, with the exception of the Strength of Raging Fire and Benja, does net us cards. So that's our ideal turn 4 play. We would have loved to have dropped that instead, but we didn't see it. Okay, so Tinkerbell is going to be great later on. Let's go ahead and ditch. He'd have to trade with the snake in, and I think we're okay with that. Let's go ahead and sing Madam Mim. Maybe see if we can find a better... Yeah, let's go ahead and ink Prince Eric instead, and now we'll drop Beast. So both of these decks are just trying to gain advantage. Both have very potent late games. With us, with our Ursulas and our Elsas and some of our Tinkerbells. With them, with obviously the Lady Tremaines and the Dragons, Maleficent Dragons. Just different late games. Yeah, they're just cycling all over again. I don't know if they don't have what they need in their hand or if they're just utilizing the card draw while they have it. Okay, so we got to be careful with not leading one unit up just because we are in range and in danger of the Lady Tremaine coming out. So I think what we're going to do here is we can trade. Yeah, so we're going to trade Prince Eric into Maleficent for the kill. We're going to bounce Eric, ink Eric, and then we're going to play out a Merlin Rabbit. Keep our own card draw engine. Great card to find. We're going to keep our beast standing. And we're kind of now in this range where we're preparing for what does he do? What does our opponent do if they drop? Or what do we do if they drop a Be Prepared? They just inked. They're 1 turn away from that, and all we do is essentially draw cards from that encounter. And we're almost begging them to do it at this point. Like, we're not going to overcommit. Teeth and Ambitions to stop the card draw from Beast is what they're looking to do. A common play that I'm not concerned with. Elsa, okay, great. So we could even just... We could play Grab Your Swords here. Clear, clear. You clear 2 units, put 2 damage on 1. And then if we sung it with Beast, and then even sing, we could play Strength of a Raging Fire. Or, sorry, not Strength of a Raging Fire. Let the Storm Rage on to clear that last unit. Have committed no further units, gained a couple questing, and basically say, okay, if you want to do it, do it. Let's go ahead and try that. So we're going to go ahead and sing Beast. Both units die. He will draw a card. We're not that perturbed by that. We're going to go ahead and... We're going to hard cast it, actually. Hard cast it. Great. And actually, I like that a lot. We're going to keep our Beast out of harm's way. Quest. You've got 3 units to their none. We're only down by 3. We're essentially even on card draw. We've got a bunch of card draw in our hand. There's a Minnie Mouse. He's going to play... I wouldn't be surprised to see it be prepared right here. The amount of cards that he's drawn, he's... What? He's 19 cards through his deck. Merlin Goat. Okay, so maybe he's trying to bait us into thinking that he doesn't have it. He's going to bounce and what? Take out Rabbit? No, he's just going to go and take out the 3. Okay. I mean, I don't really... I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop another fox or another rabbit. That'll just net me more cards if he does try to kill something that we care about. We want to keep inking here, because if we keep inking, then we get in range of Elsa. We get in range of Ursula if we draw. We'll do those 2. Let's go ahead and ink the Benja. I don't see Spellbook right now. I'm going to pass. We don't need to play anything else at the moment. Goat. So is he just going to try to pull some bounce shenanigans in general? Okay, so he's just going for Goat Lore. We would want to clear this if we do have a chance, just so that way we can not have to deal with him bouncing them. Which I don't mind committing a Strength of a Raging Fire just to kill that. I'm basically telling him, I'm not going to let you nickel and dime me to victory. Okay, great. We're fine with all of that. And let's actually... We probably would want it for the late game, but let's go ahead and ink our friends. Because the other thing that we need to be aware of is what happens if he does be prepared. The worst thing you can do after be prepared is drop the same, or just drop 1 big unit, because then it's an easy Lady Tremaine target, right? So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to commit some resources to get rid of that Ursula, because that Ursula is a problem. So what I want to do, and I'm wishing I had saved that Strength of Raging Fire, but thinking about committing an Elsa here to go exert. It won't ready, so we don't have to deal with it right now. Well, we could kill the Ursula with 4, 6, 8. So that way he can't recall it and continue to draw cards and play that game. I think that's just what we do, knowing we have another in hand. Because Ursula is a very hard unit for us to be able to clear. And we also don't lose any units in the process because of only the two attack. And we'll go ahead and ink a Tink. Ink a Baby Tink. And if he doesn't have Be Prepared in hand, then we are going to quest for a lot. Okay, there's the Be Prepared, which we're fine with. He'll gain a lore to 12. But we're about to draw 3 cards and refill our board aggressively. So we've got just as much, because we stopped him from hard casting it too. Or from singing Be Prepared with Ursula, of questing with Ursula, singing it, and then having an entire 8-9 mana to be able to play cards. So we can comfortably drop Beast to continue our card draw engine, drop a Goat. The Goat insulates us from Lady Tremaine. We're going to ink this other Tinkerbell, and we're good. Spellbook. Okay, so there's where we needed that Benja. So we're going to have to go a little quicker here because he can get there in a couple turns. Okay, so there's the Merlin Goat. Gone. Dropping Lady Tremaine. We're going to end up dropping the other Merlin Goat in case he's got a second. And something like maybe a... yeah, so we're going to ink this... we actually want to keep hold on to that. We're going to ink a Tinkerbell because we may be able to do some Goat shenanigans. So we're going to drop Ursula, push him back 1, which is fantastic. Yzma in case we needed to remove a big unit. And just play, say, hey, I'm okay if you draw cards. Now we've got the card draw in hand, and we've got cards. I think we just threaten that we're getting close to lethal. Make him respond to our board. Maleficent Dragon to remove something. That's fine. What is he going to remove? Ursula, because he's concerned about the lore gain. So what we can do is delay him by a turn and do this. If we could quest to 14, 15, if we played Elsa to exert both and drop Goat. So let's do this, actually. Let's go exert, exert. He has to keep them exerted. We're going to drop a snake, which will gain the extra lore from that Goat. We'll ink. Probably don't need to ink right now. We've got enough to play what we need. Okay, so he has to have another Be Prepared in which you kill 2 of his own units in hand. And he can't sing with them because they're exerted. He's got another Mel Dragon. What is he going to kill? Okay. That's his whole turn. He spellbooks now and hopes that we can't respond. But what we can do now, we have the game because we can Beast, Quest, Goat for the 20th. And we even had more Goat shenanigans to be able to play. All right. I'm going to decline it only because I want to give you guys the most amount of looks that I can. Maybe we run into a different deck. But you saw how our late game allowed us to kind of close the gap as we continued to have a solid ink pool as we continued to ink even through some of the trying to fight for board. We had enough to be able to drop multiple units and never be able to give him a single target removal that he needed and do additional things. He had to spend it all in order to remove tough units. All right, great. Another top kind of meta deck to be able to see a look against, which is now there's 2 versions of Steel Amber right now that are great, which is the aggressive Tiana version, and then there's the Steel Song Classic version. So, this is a hand that we don't necessarily want. I'm going to actually get rid of all of these. Actually, I'll keep Storm Rage because we want to be able to remove, in case it's like Cinderella's, we want to be able to remove those. But let's get rid of that. Hopefully we get some low-cost units. Okay, so we're not going to have a turn 1 play, and we are going first. So let's go ahead and get rid of a snake. We might end up not being able to play anything on 2 either, which kind of sucks. But in most cases, that's why I've opted to go for the Prince Eric package. Okay, great. So if we can get... I don't know if they're going to be running a whole lot of items. They could be running lanterns. Lanterns probably about the only thing I could see them running. Let's go ahead and get rid of a friends. And we'll pass. All right, he exerts. He's going to quest with the Cinderella. He inked a Cinderella, a big Cinderella. So I don't know if he has multiple and he's going to try to shift into Cinderella or what. We'll kind of see what we run up against here. Okay, so he wants to be able to keep Cinderella alive, and that's why he's doing that. We're going to kind of jump him on being able to protect. So let's go ahead and ink. We have a decision to make. Do we want the extra body? Because we can't really drop Snake right now anyway, because we don't really have great units. So we're going to drop the Snake into our pool. We're going to let the Storm Rage on against this Cinderella. Okay. We've cleared his ability to sing anything above 2 for the time being. And as we approach 5 with Grab Your Swords in hand, we're looking pretty good there. Okay, he's going to drop another one. So he really wants to be able to sing some stuff. I'm almost thinking about prioritizing. All right, so we're going to set ourselves up for a great Grab Your Swords turn here in a minute. Merlin. We do run the risk of him having Strength of a Raging Fire to be able to clear that, but even then we still do retaliate with the Grab Your Swords to be able to clear both Cinderella and the Queen to stop a shift. He very well could. Okay, so he's going to do that. He hardcasted it. So he might sing something else with Cinderella. So he's not going to shift this turn, which is great. If he full quests and we can trade Simba into a full board clear of Grab Your Swords, then we're fantastic. All right. He's banking on us not having that. So we are very happy with what's about to happen. So we go Olaf. Trade. Merlin will die. Draw us a card. Great, more card draw. Then we hard cast Grab Your Swords. Clears whole board. And we're essentially slowing this guy down. We want to keep inking because he might end up hard casting Grab Your Swords, or maybe he drops Gaston here, the 3-drop that can sing for 5, or Ariel, searching for a Grab Your or for a whole new world. We don't want to be stuck with a giant hand. Okay, so this is Tiana. This is the aggro version. He kind of masked it to this point because both decks typically run the Cinderella, so you don't really know. We're going to save that Yzma in case we need to let him draw cards but remove something like a big Cinderella. Let's ink Benja. I don't think I'm really too worried about items. It could be mouse armor. Maybe I should have saved it for the mouse armor in hindsight. But he runs a lot of songs. But let's go ahead and drop Beast, because if he hits Beast, if they hit Beast, then we can clear Tiana, because the additional attack that Beast gets when Beast is damaged, you get at the start of your turn an additional 4 attacks. So 7 is enough to clear even with a mouse armor. Okay, so he doesn't want me to get the cards. So he did just cast Storm Rage on, which I don't know if he knows that I can now kill Tiana. Or if he cares. I mean, Tiana's like the central part of that deck, so I don't necessarily agree with that decision unless he can full clear Beast with. But at 5, I don't know what options he's got. He'd have to have a Storm Rage, and there's not really any other 2-drop damage. He'd have to have a Storm Rage and to fire the cannons. And we're not really concerned about big board clears here, right? Because we're just going to be able to drop the whole thing. Okay, he hard cast Rapunzel for no additional cards. Okay, so now we clear that for free. Rapunzel still can't trade into Beast. I'd consider going double Maleficent here, but that play is really, really weak to grab your swords, which he does have access to in Steel. So I'm going to... I think we'll drop a Maleficent for the card draw. Got another Maleficent. Okay, I've got 2 of them now then. I will drop double Maleficent then. Elsa. Okay, so we want to continue to ink then. Well, we will do that. I drew the 3rd Maleficent, so then I think I'm okay with that right now. We still got Beast in hand. We still got Friends. We've got Yzma in case we need to pull something out. Cindy. We've definitely got the ability to, if we see a bounce package tool, then we can trade Beast into Rapunzel and then pull Beast back to safety, which would be awesome. Does he have another Storm Rage to come in onto the Beast, which is the question. Strength of a Raging Fire on the Beast. Okay, so he's committing a lot of tools. He's got 1 card. Lil Tink. Okay. Let's go ahead and sing. We can get more cards in hand if we want to. We can also play Elsa and just stop him from quest. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna do this instead. Okay, so we're gonna ink Olaf. The big body on Elsa is fantastic here. So we're going to play Elsa, exert both, kill Cindy, and stop him from being able to sing easily. And now we've got the ability to start killing his units. Keep board control here. Tiana, okay. I'm going to trade. Do a Fox play to pull that back. And then we're going to ink Small Tinkerbell. Quest with Maleficent. And then we're going to play Yzma on our own Maleficent to draw 2 cards. And now we've got 3 big bodies that all can take out Tiana. Any 2 of the 3 can take out Tiana together. And preferably we'd want to use Yzma and Madam Mim. But through all of this aggressive deck's desire to get out ahead, play songs, cycle, do shenanigans. See Stitch. He's got no one to play on Stitch. We've got the ability to pretty much force his hand. Let's go ahead and ink Prince Eric. Play Ursula. Make him even go farther backwards, which I'm sure is not what this deck... Yeah, that's demoralizing enough where he goes, okay, I'm going backwards in lore. He's got the ability to prevent me from even questing, which is what my deck wants to do the most. Yeah, that's a great win right there.